What up, what up, what up, YouTube? Y'all ready for this? Calling all believers. It is time. Good. Yeah. Look at that. Hey, what up, Doc?
Howdy.
Let's see. You are now on my official first live stream. I don't know if everybody can see it. There you go. What was your name, by the way, bro? I forgot to ask you. If you
my name is Nick.
Nick, or what's your channel's name?
Planar Walk.
Planar Walk?
Yeah, Planar and then
Okay, yeah. Everybody check out his channel, man. This guy's a real good dude. We've been having a conversation. Unfortunately, I'm an idiot, so I didn't know how to record it, so that's why we're doing the live stream. Yeah, we've been having a pretty pleasant conversation, if I don't say so myself. As far as my inability to do the recording, I apologize for that. My bad. But all right. So what have you looked into anything or you have any questions about anything we talked about earlier, or do you want to move on to a new subject, or?
Well, when I came to the whole thing about the moon casting a shadow, I actually got a little bit prepared to talk about that a little bit more.
All right.
So if I grab my keys, so I've got this light here, and this is going to represent the moon, and there we go.
Okay.
I'm not sure how well you can see that.
I can see it.
So when I put a key up against it, and it's really close, can you see that it casts a rather hard shadow?
Yeah, I don't see any shadow.
Okay, in that case I'll move this here and okay. So do you see the shadow now?
Yeah.
Okay. So as I move this closer to the light source, you can see that the shadow gets less and less hard because the key is smaller than the light source.
Mm-hmm.
Now the overall shadow kind of gets bigger, but there will be a point where there'll be no difference whether it's in shadow or not in shadow. So if I actually turn this back on, which is annoying because I don't know which way it's supposed to go. So and I move this right up to the light. The key is right in front of the light right now, and you can, as I move it away, you can start to see the key. But as I move it right up against the light, you can't really see any difference.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's basically what you're trying to show is how the light could go around an object like the moon instead and make a pinpoint shadow.
Yeah, how it can make a pinpoint shadow, because the hard shadow of the moon will be a pinpoint shadow rather than a spread out shadow.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, like what my point of it was, like if you were to hold a penny or a dime piece like we did earlier, that the dime piece will make a larger shadow than the actual dime piece. So yeah, that's I'm not really sure how you're, because didn't the shadow of the key wasn't that big than the key?
It was the soft shadow of the key was bigger than the key, but the hard shadow was smaller than the key.
Okay.
Because the light source was bigger than the key itself.
Okay. Yeah, like what brought that up was we were talking about the eclipse that just happened, and when I witnessed the eclipse, there was no soft shadow or hard shadow. There was just it was a regular day. It was just as bright as any other day. But with the eclipse happening, I could see that the eclipse was happening in my camera in my viewfinder, but I couldn't actually see any object to go across the moon or the sun. I mean, and then but the main point that I had made about that was that the moon had been at its zenith supposedly during the day at 11 o'clock in the daytime with the sun, because that's how it eclipsed the sun. But then again, the moon was right back where it should be at nighttime, which neither of us could really explain. Unless do you have a way? Maybe you could explain that yet, or how the moon was again where it should be at nighttime.
The explanation that I gave earlier was if it was during the evening, right? So just say it was about 7 in the evening, and the sun had just gone down. Then you should still be able to see you should be able to see a crescent of the moon.
Yep. But the moon was at its zenith, like it was at its highest point in the sky, with the sun at 11 in the morning, and then it had another zenith at its regular time at night.
Yeah, I'm not sure what would cause that, but I don't. Like, if you have captured that like on video or something, then that'd definitely be something interesting to look at. But
yeah, no, like I said, I didn't understand what I had caught when I caught it. I thought that I had missed the. I thought that my camera couldn't pick it up for some reason. Like, I mean, I was looking for the moon before it started, and then I saw it start to block out the sun, even though there was no shadow cast upon me. But there was, I could still, in my viewfinder, I could see that the sun was having it looked like the moon going right in front of it. And then when the sun was completely eclipsed or whatever, I could still see light everywhere, and I could still see that there was the sunlight was still coming through somehow. And then when it left, I still couldn't see the moon, which I erased the video because I figured my camera was just pathetic and couldn't pick it up. And then when I saw the moon later on that night, I was just like, oh wow, I really caught something that I didn't even realize when it happened. So, but and it's not like you get another opportunity to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, solar eclipses are rare, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, but what has happened though is there's a lot of documentation of the same thing happening. After I realized what happened, I looked into it a lot, and there's plenty of evidence of people seeing both the sun and the moon at the same time in the sky while the sun is being eclipsed, where the moon is somewhere different in the sky. So the explanation that heliocentricity gives about the sun being eclipsed by the moon, I definitely would say that is not. It doesn't work. It can't happen. I mean, just logically. I mean, like if you think about it, like how is the moon gonna be at its highest point in the middle of the day at 11, and then somehow zoom around the whole Earth and then start again being visible at nighttime, and then at zenith again at nighttime? It just doesn't make any sense. Like it would have to.
I think that I'd have to see more evidence for this to actually see what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. Like I said, I failed on that one, but I definitely look into it a little bit, because there is plenty of other people that have caught it and caught on to it before. They're a lot more intelligent than I am. But all right. One of the other points that we had addressed, because I just kind of want to recap, because we did have a really good conversation earlier. Like the one thing that I brought up with the moon being, we have to use or we don't have to use any optics to see the moon, even though it's 210,000 miles away. Or even we can see the crater on the moon, which is one of the eyes of the face of the moon, if you want to put it like that. We can see a 50-mile wide crater, but if we're on the ISS, we can't even make out the 4,300 mile, and then what was it, 500 kilometer wide mountain range, I think. something like that. It's a way massive compared to a 50-mile, even if you were to have a square. But the 50-mile crater on the moon, there's 4,300 miles by like 500 kilometers or 300 miles or whatever it was. Mountain range, which is the Andes mountain range, is a large mountain range on Earth. And from the ISS, you have to use substantial optics, more powerful optics than we even have commercially available, in order to see the Andes mountains, which just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, because it's like saying that if me and you were able to high five each other, we're standing that close to each other. My analogy was that you would have to use a P900 or P1000 camera just to see me, even though I'm standing right next to you. But at the same time, you can look and see a quarter that's 1,000 miles away with no problem and not using any optics. And what did you how did you respond to that earlier?
I said that it would probably be due to detail. Trying to get more detail from something, you do need to zoom in on it, or at least optically, or get or have a bigger lens or something like that. You know, you need something.
Well, but
you need to get more. What?
But without using optics, I'm saying we can see the crater, the 50-mile wide crater.
What was the? I'm actually gonna screen share with you to see.
Yep.
We can. Because if I just share my window, do you know what crater it is?
I think it's Tycho. It's just one of the eyes of the face of the moon. If you zoom out of the moon so you can see the whole moon, I can point it out to you.
Okay.
Where the whole can you get a picture of the whole moon in the screen?
This is the whole moon.
Why is it all flattened out like that?
It's because it's just for processing power, I'm guessing.
Okay. Well then,
Like
whatever.
Visible, though.
Yeah. Whatever those craters are. How big are those craters?
These ones here.
Yeah.
Control. Zoom in. Why is it no longer giving me elevation? No. Jeez.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, the whole elevation thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shows you how high each.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've never seen the moon like that. That's tight.
Yeah. Damn. I'm trying to work out how to. If I click on charts, topographic.
I'll address sorry, buddy. I'll address the comments in a little bit, you guys. I'm not ignoring you. We're gonna have our discussion, and in a little bit, I'll take some comments.
Oh, what if I go view moon with Google Earth?
Awesome.
This might.
Well, but does Google Earth show the moon? Oh.
Yeah. It shows all the planets, so that's pretty neat.
That's tight.
Might have a. It's kind of weird having three screens having the same
right.
same image on it, and you're trying to navigate through screens.
I know. I'm having difficulty with just two. Everybody's pointing it out too.
Yeah, I've got two screens, and so sometimes I do have to switch between windows. But yeah, because I'm just trying to work out, like, if I load up Google Maps again. Actually, if I just load up Google Maps, then I load up the moon. Maps. It doesn't seem to be wanting to load. Like, I'm trying to Here's the thing, I'm trying to get a chart, because I managed to get it earlier this year, a chart of sort of size of how big everything was in relation to each other. It showed it down the bottom right hand corner.
I'm googling it right now.
What about the moon 3D map? That might help.
It's not the most visible one. Okay, here we go. Tycho crater is one of the most prominent craters on the moon. It appears as a bright spot in the southern highlands with rays of bright material that stretch across much of the near side. Its prominence is not due to its size, which is 85 kilometers in diameter. It's just one among thousands of this size or larger.
So, what crater is it exactly? Because then we can get a good idea of how.
What was that?
I'm just trying to work out how where it is exactly. Actually, I see it on the live stream. It's.
Here we go. Here we go. Here's a diagram of it. Where is Tycho? Oops. Oh, where'd it go? Here we got. Mare Tranquillitaris. Here, okay, let's go. The Copernicus crater. That's an easy one. Let's see how big the Copernicus crater is.
Yeah, it's just not wanting to load. What I'll do is I'll drag the...
Perfect. Here we go. The Copernicus crater is visible, and here we illustrate the overall structure of three large prominent craters, Copernicus, Tycho, and Theophilus. The crater Copernicus, 93 kilometers in diameter, is one of the most prominent features on the moon's near side. It is a relatively fresh crater, believed to have formed less than 1 billion years ago, blah, blah, blah. But, alright, so we got 93 kilometers. I'm not sure what that equals down to in miles, but it's probably about like 70 or 60 something.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, especially me, Steven, but we got 70 mile, or here, even if we go turn it into miles, we got 93 mile wide 93 mile wide crater. How is it that we can see a 93 mile wide crater on the moon when it's 210,000 miles away with our bare eyes, but when the ISS is looking at a 4,300 mile long plus 500 kilometer wide mountain range, they have to use like 150 times zoom or insane optics just to be able to get that resolution to make it out. It just doesn't make it. Yeah, Lord David, I'm turning it into miles to give you guys the benefit of the doubt. That's why. But yeah, like how is it that we're able to see something that's only 100 miles even across, but the ISS can't even make out something 4,300 miles long?
So one of the things that would also have to take into consideration is atmosphere of the Earth, because the Earth has an atmosphere and the Moon has no atmosphere. The ISS having to look through that atmosphere to see this kind of stuff would slightly obscure the what it can see. So you need a bit more. You need things to zoom in a bit more on that as well. Because if you've seen any of the ISS live streams,
mm-hmm.
then you can barely make out the difference between a continent and the ocean.
Yeah, you can't ever make out a continent. Yeah.
And so to get a mountain range, you'd need to zoom in on it so that you can actually properly see the mountain range.
Right.
And if you want to get detail on that mountain range, then you'd have to zoom in on it even more.
Well, yeah, like just to see it, you'd have to zoom in. So, what is so different about looking through the atmosphere from the ISS, which isn't even out of our atmosphere, as opposed to looking through way more atmosphere to the moon? And think about this too. When they were on the moon, they couldn't make out anything. The Earth is so much larger than the moon, supposedly. And while they're on the surface of the moon, you can barely even see the Earth is a speck in the sky. There's no way you can make out a mountain range, much less. See, basically what I'm saying, like, if you and I are a mile away from each other, and I have to use zoom to see you, or here, let's go 10 miles. If you're 10 miles away from me, and I'm 10 miles away from you, and there's nothing obstructing our view at all, and in order for you to see me, I'd have to use, or you'd have to use a P900 at full zoom or whatever, say, right? So in order to see me at full zoom, why is it that you have to use full zoom from 10 miles away, but I could see you 10 miles away, supposedly? How is there any other example you can give where two people are complete same distance from each other, but one of them has to use an insane amount of optics in order to see the other one, and the other one can just see with bare eyes?
Imagine if you had a cloud of fog around you, right? And this cloud of fog just follows you wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, looking through that cloud of fog, you'd be able to see me perfectly fine, right? Well, not perfectly fine, but
yeah.
you'd be able to see me relatively well.
How far away?
Let's just say like 100 meters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I'd be able to see the cloud of fog, yes, but I wouldn't be able to see through the fog to actually make out any detail. Like, I wouldn't know who you are. If people were wandering around and suddenly obscured by fog, I would have no idea who anyone. Well, it depends how much fog it was, but
if you couldn't make me out through the fog, how could I make you out through the fog?
It's because of the distance, like you. So the light that you're seeing is.
Brido, that's not a visible crater. That's on the other side of the moon, supposedly. Sorry. Good.
Okay. Yeah. So when it comes to what you can see, you've got to look through the. I'm having a hard time explaining it.
I bet. That's a difficult one to do.
Yeah, because when you look through fog, you can see things that are right in front of you easily. But when something's obscured by fog, it's a bit harder to.
You see what I'm saying though? Like no fog, no anything. Like if me and you are the same distance apart from each other, we would have to, unless one of us is bad vision. Like I'm saying, like if we both have 20/20 vision, we should both easily be able to see each other. Like if I can see you, you can see me. Like that's the way that it works in reality. Unless you can give a different, some other example where that's not true, then I'd put forth that the moon is not 210,000 miles away, as they say.
But yeah, it's generally down to how much detail you want to get out of it.
Well, any detail at all. Like if they're on the moon and they're looking at the Earth, which is supposed to be way larger, they can't make out they can't even make out a continent, or they can't make out anything. It's just a little blue speck in the distance is what the moon landing videos portrayed. But we're looking at the moon and it looks way more detailed, way more, we can see it, you know what I'm saying? Like it's the fact that we can see detail on the moon is a dead giveaway I'll even put forth that it's only 30 miles away, because it looks exactly like something like a mountain range that we can see from another. If we're on a higher mountain and we look on looking at a lower mountain, but it's 30 miles away, yeah, we can see it just about the same resolution.
I would not say that the moon is, even if the Earth is flat, I would not say that the moon is 30 miles away.
Triangulation on a flat Earth depicts it commands that it would be 30 miles away around about?
Well, the thing is, I've seen some triangulation things, and it puts it at about at the closest, it would put it at about 1,000 miles away.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying what triangulation actually. I mean, I'm not a math whiz, so I can't really necessarily say that they're right or wrong. But what I can do is I can compare it to what I see when I'm 30 miles away from a mountain range, and yeah, it's spot on, same resolution that I can see. But can we at least both agree that whenever two people are from the same distance apart from each other, obviously, if they're looking at each other, if one of them can see the other one in detail, then the other one, if they have the same vision, should be able to see that one in detail. No fog, no nothing.
Yes.
Okay.
But when it comes to, and this is the main point, when it comes to the Earth, there is atmosphere that we've got to consider and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're on the moon, like what they showed the videos from the moon, that they're looking through just same amount of atmosphere as we are looking up at the moon. So, I mean, we can move on from that point if you like, but I just wanted to bring that one up.
Like, it is one thing that would probably just end up going in circles and circles, and I'd be trying different ways to explain it to you.
Well, if you got other ways to explain it, I'm all ears. Like, that's what I'm asking for.
As I've been saying, it's mostly due to atmosphere, because one of the things that I notice is the Earth, when it comes to looking at it through the ISS, it's very blue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll take questions in a minute, Sean. Yeah. It's but that's not what I'm saying now. Like, I'm saying, like, you can see the crater with your bare eyes, and if you were standing on that crater looking at Earth, you can't see a 50-mile wide. You can't see anything that's 50 miles. You can't even see something that's thousands of miles long. Like, it's ridiculous in my head to think that they're telling the truth about moon and the distance to the moon. And if NASA's lying about that, nothing can be trusted, which is obviously my point of view on everything from NASA.
Another thing I want to add is also with cameras, because to view the moon through a camera, you need to zoom up on it.
No, you can see the moon, and you can see the detail on the moon with your bare eyes.
Well, to see detail on the moon with a camera, you need to zoom up on it, and obviously you'll need to play around with exposure settings, because our eyes are a lot better than cameras.
What?
Generally. Well, when it comes to standard cameras like my phone camera,
yeah,
I cannot get any detail out of the moon. However, if I had the Nikon P,
yes, you can. Without zooming in, you can see the face of the moon.
I can't see it on my phone camera.
Try it tonight, because I can with mine. I've got an iPhone 6. It's not even a good phone.
Because I filmed the lunar eclipse, and I took photos of it as well. I could just see a little tiny bit of detail from. I'm pretty sure that was zoomed up using my phone, but that was also during when the eclipse was happening.
Well, the face in the moon has been a saying long before any zooms or optics were ever invented. Like, the face in the moon has been visible by people throughout history, especially when there wasn't as many lights as we have now on Earth. Like, there's a lot. If you go out into a dark desert, you can definitely see a lot more detail than you could in a city. But yeah, no, when you're in a dark desert or whatever, you can see very, very clearly the detail on the moon, and you can definitely make out the face in the moon.
And also another thing to add is that when it comes to zoom of a camera, it's kind of, so when something is 170 times, was that the time that you said?
150 times zoom from the ISS to see the Andes mountain range.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a guesstimate. That's really not a they don't tell you how many times zoom. I can't find it, but I know that it's a massive amount of zoom, because the ISS, when you look at the live feed, you can't make out even a continent.
But another thing to consider is that each increment of zoom becomes less and less the more that you've zoomed in relative. So if I make something twice the size, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 times zoom.
Yep.
You can agree on that?
Yep.
If I make something, if I make that twice the size again, that's 4 times zoom.
Yep.
If I do twice the size again,
8.
That's 8, 16.
Yep.
You get the idea.
Yeah.
It only takes. It doesn't even quite take 8 lots of this to really zoom up on something.
Well, it does when it's 300 miles away.
Well, it doesn't quite. Well, meaning it doesn't quite take 8 times. Halving it and halving it and halving it to get up to 150 times. Because just with 7 times you get 128.
It's 128 what?
Like if you zoom in, if you double the size of something by zooming in 7 times, you only get 128 times zoom.
Okay. No, that's 7 times zoom, or 8. Yeah, it's not. I don't understand. Maybe I'm not understanding it.
Well, if I bring up paint again.
Okay.
Let me just.
Yeah.
Screen share. And then bring up application window and this paint. Hold up. Ah, there we go. So my diagram from earlier.
Yep.
So 100%. That's we'll say that that's a that's just standard zoom, right?
Yeah.
Now 200%. Oh, there we go. 200%. That's 2 times zoom.
Yeah.
400%. That's 4 times, and then we go all the way to 800, right?
All right.
If I'd screenshot this, and
No, Lord David, we're saying what they shot from the moon landing videos is those are the imaginary people on the moon. Sorry, babe.
okay. So now we've got this 8 times zoom thing here.
Yeah.
And if I go, 4, or even just 2 times zoom, that's actually 16 times zoom, right?
Okay.
Of the original thing.
Okay.
And then for now that's 32 times zoom of the original thing.
Yep.
And then we're up to 64 times zoom of the original thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so you can see that this is even though we're up to 64 times zoom, we've definitely made the picture bigger.
Oh,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But every step of zoom, like that's a step of zoom from, if I were to zoom it from 100 or from 64 to 63 times, you wouldn't see much difference. So I can only go step from 700 to 800 on this thing, but you get my point. When you get to such sizes like 150 times zoom,
yeah,
it doesn't make much of a. It sounds like it's zooming in a hell of a lot, and I can understand why it sounds like it's zooming in a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not actually zooming in as much as it sounds like.
Well, but my point is, if it's zooming in one time or twice. You should be able to see. If they have to zoom in at all from the ISS, which is only 300 miles up, it's nowhere near 210,000 miles away. The ISS is only 300 miles high, and they have to use any optics at all. If they have to use any optics at all, then that tells me that number one, we should not see any detail on the moon without using optics. Also, at least 2 times zoom. Like if they're having to use any optics whatsoever from a shorter distance to from ISS to Earth, then we can see from Earth to the moon. Then it's BS. I think there's no getting around that, because if you have to use any optics, like I said, me and you standing the same distance apart from each other, there's no way that one of us would have to use a different time zone.
But to get as I said, a good analogy is or a good sort of thing to understand is that if you are, if you want to take a picture of the moon, like I have, and you want a really good picture, you have to zoom in on the moon, because
yes,
and in photos that I take with my phone, I can't really make out any of the 85-meter craters. I can make out the big spots on the moon.
That's what the big spots on the moon
are. No, I mean the like if I get I'm trying to work out which crater, but I can't make out any of the craters that are 85.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So let's go with, all right. Do you see any? There's not even any of the craters on the moon that claim to be 4,300 miles long. So there, to say that we can see the 4,300 mile long mountain range on Earth when it's only 300 miles away from it, you have to use zoom to see that. Then we should be able to, or we shouldn't be able to see any detail on the moon without using optics as well.
Well, one of the things that you've also, this is the main thing, Earth does have an atmosphere.
And so does, yes, we're looking through it both ways, except for the ISS that it's not even competing. It's got less atmosphere.
I found this video that claims to take a photo of the moon, and that is 83 times optical zoom.
Okay, but look at the video of moon without any zoom.
And I mean, you can see the craters on that fairly fine. But you've also got to take into consideration the atmosphere and the amount of detail you'll. I'm mixing up my words here. The amount of detail that you want to get from the mountain range, because there's quite a bit of scattering of the light from the sun through the atmosphere. Then you've got everything has a bluish sort of tinge to it, so that makes it harder to make out.
At nighttime?
Oh no, and during the daytime.
Okay. Well, I'm mainly thinking because nighttime it's a lot more clear. You can see everything a lot more clearly without the ambient light.
And that's another point when it comes to seeing the moon. Because you've got to look through this atmosphere at the moon during the day with a whole lot of light, it makes it harder to see the moon. And it would be harder to see the craters on the moon as well. So if you wanted to get more detail during the day, then you'd want to use a much bigger zoom than during the night.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you could say, oh, okay, why don't they just take a photo of the ranges during the night? Problem is that you're going to have no light on the ranges, so.
Well, yeah, no, it does. They take pictures of the ranges all the time. The ISS orbits Earth once every 90 minutes, supposedly. That also confirms the radius of the Earth. They say, or not the radius, the diameter of the circumference of the Earth. Sorry, It confirms that. So if they orbit it in 90 minutes and they're going around it every 90 minutes, then yeah, they pass over the mountain ranges all the time. But you can never see it because they're not zoomed in. It's just going over. It looks like just water. Like, I guarantee you, if you were to pull up live feed right now, here, I'll pull up live feed right now. I guarantee you, I bet you 100 freaking bucks right now that it's just showing the, it's just showing water and some clouds. Hands down, because that's all they ever show. And it's moving so slow that to think that they're going all the way around the Earth in 90 minutes when doing that is so ridiculous to me, dude. Like, that's not, there's no way they went from point A, like, point A, went all the way around the Earth and hit point A again, and then were able to be right back at starting point in 90 minutes. It just doesn't look like that ball is rolling that quickly underneath them. But here, watch. ISS.
You've also got to consider that that it does, you know, to be in orbit, you have to move.
Oh shoot! I'm just not gonna. Whoops. Sorry, buddy.
Gives you
my bad. It cuts you off. I can't. Are you still there? Oh shit. My bad. Are you there?
Okay,
yeah. I guess I can't play a video with you being on the hangout. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But I guarantee you, dude. Like, if anybody wants to check up on the live stream right now on the live feed of the ISS, and you can come at me with whatever evidence you can about showing that it's showing anything other than blue water and clouds, because every single time I've ever looked at it, that's all it shows.
Well, most of the Earth is water, so that's.
But I mean,
understandable.
it's not. It's never ever showing. Oh, except for when they said that they had this huge hurricane, that they depicted a hurricane larger than the United States on the ISS live feed, even though it was just.
Okay.
What?
So yeah, I've heard that claim,
and
the thing is, it is due to. I should probably actually eat my can of baked beans to explain this. So when you're closer to something, it takes up, like when you're closer to something on a sphere or even a cylinder, it takes up more of the screen. If you're close, or more of.
Yeah, that's what Sapien.
More of the.
Are you getting that from Sapien's explanation?
I'm getting it from even observations. As also, I'll go grab my baked bean can. I'll be right back.
Here, yeah. I've got a way to show that right now too, actually. Let's see. Take cigarettes. Okay, so we've got this. I don't know if you can see the live stream right now or not, but we've got no zoom whatsoever.
Okay, so here.
Okay.
So here I've got a can of baked beans, right? And as you can see, the way that you perceive it from here, the spoon of baked beans takes about half the can, correct?
So if you hold it all the way up to the screen, so that so you can't see anything but the baked beans can, it'd be a lot easier. Yeah. So all the way up. Yeah. Try to cover the whole screen. No. Try to cover your face too. Yeah, like the whole thing. Okay, now. That's what it looks like. The word baked is, you can see baked and you can see the beans when it's not zoomed in at all. And then if you pull it back to yourself and zoom in, watch zoom in on yourself.
I can't. Actually, maybe I can. Just give me a few seconds to see if I can control my camera.
Yep. I'm gonna do the same thing with mine right now. Here we go. Marlboro with just a little bit hanging off of the sides, and they got the two corners, the red corners right there. Now if I pull this up and I zoom in, unplug it from the wall, and there we go, right back here. Same thing.
I'm gonna have to open up.
Like that. That's all the way zoomed out. Let's see if we can line it up. Okay, so we got 20 Class A cigarettes on
Okay,
the
here we
red
go. I've
line
got
and
webcam
2
control now.
things.
So if I zoom in on this, right? That's kind of freaky my face. Zooming on that much, so I'm gonna move my face over. So the size of this now seems, even though it's, if I need to keep this messy. Okay, this is okay. Yeah. So now the size of the spoon, see, it still takes up. It's taking up about half of it, half of the can, right?
It's like almost the whole thing is like 7/8 or 6/8.
Like if I move it like this.
Maybe
right?
if you tilt the can sideways so that it's like on its side, that might, because it's a wide angle camera that I got. Yeah, there we go.
Oh yeah. So you can see it's taking it about. Okay, maybe not. Maybe a bit over half.
Cover everything else with the image of the baked beans. Can you do that? Yeah, perfect. Like that, exactly. Okay, now we can see in tomato sauce, and then we can see the home brand all the way. We can see the entire label, including the 420 grams at the bottom, and then like.
Main thing, I'm not wanting you to focus on this stuff here, right?
Oh.
I'm mostly wanting to focus on this stuff because, you know, it's not a sphere. It's a cylinder.
Yeah.
So focusing on the round part. So if I bring the zoom right back out, and then instead of using that zoom, I zoom on it like that.
Yeah.
And now it looks like it's taking up a hell of a lot more of the cylinder space than it was before.
Okay, so then that's the opposite of what you're saying, because you're saying that the farther away you get and you zoom in, that it should be bigger.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that the closer you are to an object, the more of the surface of that object some objects appear to take up. That's the same reason why when it comes to the whole... Okay, I've still got the camera settings. That's the same reason why the United States on the globe appears to take up different sizes when you from different photos, because if you're a different distance away from it, it'll look like it takes up a different size of the globe. And that's the same thing.
If you're closer to the globe without zooming, you're saying it would be larger than if you were to pull away and zoom in?
It'd appear to take up more of the globe than if you were to pull away and zoom in, yes.
Okay, well, because that's when the NASA shows the picture of North America doubling in size, they're saying, what Sapien says it was because the satellite had traveled a whole nother year farther away, so it was farther distance from the Earth, and the zoom is the reason that it made it was the same size globe, though. That's the thing. The baked beans and then everything that you just showed, they're the same size. It zoomed in or showed in. They didn't double in size for dang sure, dude. Like, there's no way that doubled in size. I don't think anybody can be intellectually honest and agree that doubled in size because of you zooming in and looking at it. Like, I mean, there's no basis for his argument, and if that's the same argument that you're bringing up, I'd say that for yours too.
Well, the thing is with this, it's a completely different. It is a different scale. So, like, if I were to because when it comes to the Earth, you can get a quite a long way away from it, but you've also, I'm just trying to work out a good way to explain it. So with the argument with the baked beans, right?
Yeah.
Back here, it definitely takes up a smaller space, and the reason why it's not taking up more space this way is simply due to this way being a straight line.
Yeah, but if you zoom in on it, it's not going to cover the whole label of the can and keep the can the same size. If it's gonna zoom in, it's gonna make everything bigger. It's not just gonna make the beans bigger and the can stay the same size.
If I zoom in, yes. If I bring it forward, though, everything else, like, you can tell it with this label here.
Mm-hmm.
Everything appears to take up more space.
Yeah.
And essentially what NASA does when creating these photos of the Earth is they have to zoom up on the Earth because, well, if I want to get a photo of the Earth in Blender, I usually render it and then zoom up on it to get the actual results that I'm looking at. And especially if you've got satellites like NASA's Discover one, they have to really zoom up on it and make it the same size as the other ones, because otherwise you'd have a tiny speck. But when you're close, you can just use the full photo that you get.
Word. I agree. Hey, I'm gonna have to be cutting it a little bit short right now. Do you want to take a couple of questions from whoever's in the live stream right now?
There's a couple of people in the live stream.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions that they did want to ask? I know that there was a few earlier directed my way by Sean. For the first time, it's gone quiet. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to say to correct me or to
or even to correct me?
Yeah, just anything that came up. What TF, Sergeant? Is that a question? Okay, you already proved you can't answer any questions. Well, I'm trying to prove that I can right now. So if you'd like to ask a question, we can figure out who's. What do you mean? Yep. Is there anybody that's got a question? Anybody got a point?
Okay, one of the things, if I scroll back in the chat, it says,
okay,
if we can see the moon at moonrise, why can't we see California or Hawaii from Hawaii?
From Hawaii? Well, I mean, that goes to perspective. Like, you can't see California from Hawaii because you're not high enough, or it's too far for your perspective to make it out. It's come to a point and it's disappeared, which is another point of flat Earth, especially. Like, you can't see an entire state from if you get into a high-rise tower from, let's say, New York. If you get into the Empire State Building, you can't see California from there. It's not because of a curve. You can't even see the next state over because of that. It's just everything comes to a point and vanishes.
Here's a question that I've got. Why can you bring more into view as you go higher?
Well, that's because the higher you go, you're able to look down, and you're increasing your angle of resolution. You're increasing your angle of perspective. You're not looking straight out across. When you look straight out across like a plane, like I have a video of this. Like, you can bring your own horizon. If you lay down on your stomach and you put your chin look on the ground and you're looking straight in front of you, your horizon is not going to be as far away as you can see right now. And you can do it on the flattest place you can find. It's going to bring the horizon right up close. It's not because there's a curve there. It's not because like there's all of a sudden a curve in your gymnasium or wherever you're laying down. Your horizon comes up to you because you're not able to see looking down. You're not increasing your angle of resolution. You're increasing your angle of resolution the higher you get because you're looking at an angle. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's a diagonal angle, you're able to see over a longer line.
I kind of get what you're saying, but the thing is, if I just say I see the sunset and I'm in a place that has that really tall building somewhere in the Middle East, and then I take an elevator straight up to the top of that building, I can then watch the sunset again.
Oh yeah. And that's what happens. You can see farther on over a plane if you get higher. And actually, what if you actually include that or incorporate that for a ball Earth, any computer program that you do to make a simulation of it, it doesn't matter how high you get. At a certain point, you're not going to be able to see on the other side of the ball. You're not going to be able to see that far. It's gonna curve everything away from you.
But it still doesn't explain, though, how things. Like, say that I have a like going back to boats disappearing over the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they disappear whole first.
Yep.
And then it will be the masts and sails and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you're talking about with angular resolution,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't explain why it disappears in that fashion. Going over a curve.
Well, that's angular resolution isn't my explanation for that. My perspective is really my, or I'm sorry, atmospheric magnification is mine.
What are the mechanics of atmospheric magnification that causes that to happen?
Air density. The more dense the air is at the water level, and it usually happens, it's more exaggerated over water, especially because the air is more dense over water. But that level or that layer of dense air directly above the water is gonna magnify, and it's gonna refract, and it's gonna make so anything behind that layer, when the wind blows, you can see everything that was just hidden by the curve.
But the thing is, though, with the whole light bending over water, and is light bending over water should allow us to see further, especially over cold water. It should allow us to see further.
No, it'd be shorter because cold water is more dense. It'd be colder air, and that'd be more dense of air. So when the wind blows, say like a hot gust comes through and it disperses the really dense air, then you're gonna be able to see through it a lot easier, and you'll be able, like one good video that I've seen, it shows across the lake. I think I told you this earlier. Across the lake there was these trees. You could barely see the tops of the trees, and you knew that the trees were there. But then when the wind blew, you could see all the way to the base.
But the thing is with the way that light bends is that, so if you've got something dense here and something not quite as dense here, light will bend like that. So that allows us. That's why atmospheric refraction allows us to see further, because the bottom part is usually denser than the top part, and so it bends in a fashion.
The thing that I would say that's not atmospheric refraction that you're talking about is because atmospheric refraction doesn't have a clear, steady picture. It's actually a mirage. That's what the definition really is of atmospheric refraction. Is it's a mirage. It's going to be a wavy visual. It's going to be visually moving. It's not going to be a visually steady landscape. You're not going to be able to see a skyline as still and straight and perfect as you would if you were just looking at it regularly. And another thing too, Rob Skiba, he kept the Chicago skyline in view as he sailed across the Great Lake in a boat. So he kept it in view the entire time, and it never disappeared, and it wasn't due to light bending. It was due to that was the actual image all the way up until he was at the buildings.
Well, here's the thing with light bending is it's not a sudden something will go out of view and then light will bend it back into view, because what you're constantly seeing, because how images are essentially formed is from lights.
Yeah.
Is from light.
Yeah, that's
how all images are formed. So when light bends, the image that you're seeing is from the light bending.
But no, that's what I'm saying. I see what you're saying, that you're like, as you sail up to it, you're just seeing another like layer of it. It's just bending with you as you go. But I go again to the fact that when you're looking at the refracted image, supposedly, it's not wavering. It's not anything but a still image, and that's what refracted light does, is it wavers. It's not steady. You're going through all these layers. It's not going to be a steady image. All these layers are going to make it wave and move, and you're not going to be able to see it like that.
But when it comes to, this just comes to the question of when can you classify an image as a refracted image? Because
depends on what I can classify a straw going through water and bending and appearing to bend is a refracted image, because that's what the definition entails. But like if you're looking through the water at that straw, it doesn't bend, and that's what we're in. We're in the water. If you're going to say that air is bending the light, then we are in the air, and we are in the part that's bending the light. So we don't see any movement of refraction. If you were in the water, you wouldn't see any refraction whatsoever. It's only when you're outside of the medium that you can see that bend. That's not the case in the air, because we're in the air.
Yeah, but the point that I'm trying to make is if I've got it's the same question as if I've got a piece of string, and we can agree that this is say I have a piece of string. I don't actually have a piece of string, but this is a long piece of string.
You do on your sweatshirt.
Oh yeah. Just say that this is a long piece of string, right? We can both agree that this is a long piece of string. Is it still a long piece of string now? The string that I've got between my fingers.
It is. You're just holding more of it out of view.
Yeah, but as I put more of it out of view,
it's shorter.
It's a long piece.
No, it's shorter.
It's shorter.
Yeah.
But when do we stop classifying this as a long piece of string?
Well,
so the thing is with refraction is when do you start classifying it as you're seeing a refracted image?
Well, I would put forth that we're not seeing any refracted image until you see a wavering image like a mirage, because that's what the definition entails. That it has to be a wavering image. Well, what's the question, Lord David? Sorry.
I think we got caught up talking about the whole light bending thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to light bending and getting and refracting.
Oh.
You got to look up.
Yeah, I see.
He says explain how the moon generates its own light.
Oh, okay.
So that is an interesting question.
Have you heard of that yet?
I've heard tidbits of it.
Okay, well, they've been doing experiments, and there's actually thousands of people that have done this experiment. I don't know if you have. I personally have a thermometer to do it, so I can't claim that I have done this one specifically. But the fact that there's like so many people that have done it, and they've all come to the same result, and nobody's actually come up with the result of moonlight making warmer area than the moon's shade. Like the moonlight should be reflecting the warm light of the sun. If it is reflecting the sunlight, just like any other reflected light, there should be heat generated from it. There can't be refracted. There's never been any refracted light that has been colder than like the area that it's shining on. Like say there's cement. Like they've got like a driveway where they've got a piece of cardboard, just like a teepee of cardboard or a triangle of cardboard, where it's got air going through it, but it's shielding from the light. So then they measure the temperature of the cement as underneath the moon shade and in the moonlight, and every time, hands down, no matter what, it's always colder in the moonlight than it is for. There's no such thing as radiative cooling. Like as far as radiation's hot. Like there's no cool radiation, and
well, when we talk about radiative cooling, we talk about so if I've got an object, right, and so just say, well, even your body does radiative cooling, right? So essentially, what it is because the air around me is cooler. What happens is I lose heat to the air. That's what.
But you're still sorry, but I'm saying, but you're still creating heat. It's just that it's losing it more.
Well, even if I have, like, I've got a hot water bottle. The hot water bottle, if it's in air, right, it loses heat, right, to the air. That's radiative cooling. It's not generating any new. This isn't generating any new heat, it's just losing heat to the air around it. That is radiative cooling.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to something in the shade, one thing that you have to consider is it can't lose as much of its heat because there will be stuff that will keep the heat in that area.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like when they use a piece of cardboard that's just I don't know if you can see my hands, like the cardboard just looks like that, like it's this, where my thumb is touching the ground, and where my finger is touching the ground, and it's just making like a TP. Okay, so it's air goes through it, so it's not like it's containing any heat. It's not like putting a bowl on top of it and making it keep cup all the heat in there. It's got a wind tunnel so the air can go through, and it's not just retaining heat in there because of that, but it's always going to be cooler in the moonlight where it should be hotter, and especially like most times by 15 degrees or something. Like it's a lot of times it's a ridiculous amount, and it's never ever warmer in the moonlight than it is in the moon shade.
Even so, that cardboard thing would still retain heat.
Not if it's in the open air, it's gonna have the same temperature as before they do the experiment or whatever. They measured the temperature of the object. Like they've done it on metal, they've done it on cement, they've done it on everything. The heat that's in there, it's not getting warmer, and it's not retaining heat, because if it was retaining heat, then it would get warmer than it was at the beginning of the experiment. It's not building heat upon itself. It's got air moving through it, so it's constantly cooling down. But the moonlight is so substantially. They've tried it when the moon is new. Lord David, you keep saying that, but the new moon is nothing. Like it's more. If it's a full moon, it's cooler in the moonlight than it would be in like a half moon or a quarter moon. Tell me no, but look into it and then shut up. Like it's 15 degrees a lot of times when it's a full moon, cooler in the moonlight than it is in the moon shade.
Because the thing is, first you got to, even when you're considering this thing, like why would moonlight be cool?
Because it's a different type of light than the sun. I mean, really, why would it? That's the question. It shouldn't be.
I mean, it's still on the spectrum, visible wavelength spectrum. So why is it different?
That's a good question. Why is it different?
And that's one thing you got to answer. Why would light from the moon act differently?
I don't have to have the answer as to why, so much as to show that this is a result of it. To show that that's the result of it is all that you really need. I don't have to have an explanation for why water is blue. I can just prove that it's blue, when you're looking at it. Like, if I can prove that the sky is blue by just showing you. I can't explain why it is, but it still doesn't erase the fact that it's blue. The moonlight is cooler than the moon shade. Like, I can't explain that, and there's no other light in the world that does that. That's the funny thing.
And that is a good thing to point out. There is no other light in the world that does do that.
You're right.
And so so here's the thing that you've got to consider. Because if you don't have a answer of why, then it comes down to it comes down to the whole causation versus correlation. You can set up an experiment and that shows that there's a correlation. And if you can't give an explanation of why, then...
Well, I mean, the explanation is that it's cold light.
That's the explanation, but why is that light cooler than why would that light be cooler than the other light?
That's a question to answer after you realize that it's a cool light, but the fact remains that it's a cool light. Like, I can come up with theories all day long. I can say that, anything from God to Buddha made it. But, I mean, just any theory you want to come up with doesn't erase the fact that you can still measure it is going to be cooler in the moonlight than it is in the moon shade.
So the thing is, if you can't establish what property of moonlight makes it cooler, then it's reasonable to maybe think that there's something else in the experiment that might be causing the measurements to be the way that they are, and that's why we
repeat it. That's why we repeat the experiment thousands of times. That there's people all around the world that do it every night.
And the thing is, the conclusion that depending on who you are, like the conclusion that I've arrived at and many other people like me have arrived at, is that it's radiative cooling is causing the thing to, it's causing the...
When you're talking about yourself or a hot water bottle, it's not cooling anything around it. Even if the air is cold around it, it is getting cold from the air around it, but it is not cooling the air around it. What the moon is doing is cooling the surface around it.
When we talk about radiative cooling, it's not so much an actual cooling. It's more of a dispersion of the dispersion of heat. So objects, if they're warmer than the area around them, it'll lose heat to the area around them, and
Yes.
that will make the object that you're measuring cool down. That's what radiative cooling is.
But that's not what we're saying that the moon is doing, and that's not what we're seeing that the moon is doing. The moon is not just getting cold because the air is cold, or the moonlight's not getting cold because the air is cold. The moonlight is making the surface cooler than the other surface.
But the thing is, this can be explained by another sort of thing, radiative cooling. We know the mechanics of radiative cooling. We do not know what the proposed mechanics of the moon's cool light is.
I appreciate that, MC. Thank you. Okay, but what radiative cooling really does is, if you put a hot water bottle next to a cold object, is it going to make that cold object warmer than it was before? It might cool it off eventually, but it's going to eventually. First of all, it's going to make it warmer before it's going to get colder. So that radiation is heating. It's radiating heat, but then it's getting overtaken by the cold.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think you are misunderstanding what radiative cooling is. It's not so much the idea that something's cooling the area around it. It's not like something's a refrigerator, you know.
That's what I'm saying the moon is, though. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to say that it's radiative cooling, then it would have to be, you'd have to point out how radiative cooling cools objects around it.
Well, the thing is, radiative cooling doesn't cool objects around it. It actually makes the objects around it warmer.
So that's
It's the warm object that's getting cooler.
Yes.
When it says radiative cooling, it's not referring to the objects around it. It's referring to the object itself. It's cooling by losing heat from the heat radiating out from it.
Exactly. So it's not cooling off things around it. It's actually making them warmer until it runs out of heat itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is and the reason why this is an explanation for why these measurements are giving off. So the reason why these measurements are seeming to show that the moonlight is cooler is because when something's in the moonlight, it's generally out in the open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's free to lose a lot of heat as it goes. But if you put something under shade, usually this will be closer to objects, and even if you've got air flowing through,
mm-hmm.
it'll still retain more heat because these objects will keep heat trapped in that particular area.
What about like a really tall awning, like a barn? Like I got a barn in my backyard. Actually, here, I'll show you real quick. Oh, I got. I don't know if my internet's gonna. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear.
Okay, cool. Because I got horses, and so we got a barn out here, but it's not like a regular red barn that you see like in cartoons or whatnot. I don't know if you can see that. All right. Do you see? Oh.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, so now if there's something like that, do you think that would be retaining the amount of heat that would be measurable?
It would still retain some heat.
But it'd be like maybe I'll give you credit, maybe even 1 degree. It might. I would test it, but I don't have a thermometer yet. I'm gonna get a thermal thermometer when I can. But yeah.
A good way to actually test this would be to keep the results during a new moon, right?
Okay? I'm thinking new moon would be like a full moon, but I'm guessing I'm wrong about that. Is a new moon no like really sliver of a moon or what?
The new moon is when the moon is when you can't really see the moon.
Okay, yeah. So I was wrong on that one. I was thinking it was opposite. But all right. So yeah, when it's a new moon, what?
So when it's a new moon, test the do a test with the thermometer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's full moon, do another test, exactly the same test, and then compare the results. So if the part in the barn is warmer during the new moon, then it's reasonable to say that the barn does produce some does inhibit radiative cooling, right?
The barn,
Whereas-
yeah, the barn doesn't inhibit radiative cooling because radiative cooling, what we just said was, radiative cooling is just the losing of heat from an object that is actually warming.
Yeah.
So it's not losing heat due to it. It would be just losing heat due to that. Actually, I mean,
But the thing is with thermodynamics is if something's in a warm place, it'll lose heat a lot
slower. Yes.
Yeah. And so if you go into the if you get a thermometer at some point, and I'd be interested to see what the results are actually,
Mm-hmm.
and then go into that barn and then test what the temperature is in that barn at and make sure that the time is a good time, just say 11 at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you repeat the same experiment on that same month, and then compare results at full moon.
Yeah.
And then you like let anyone see the results, and then people will be able to draw conclusions and say, look, maybe this, and also the weather would be knowing the weather would be good because there's other factors that can influence it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
definitely. I forget his name, man. There's one guy who's really really big. He's a Christian fighter. I think his name's Nathan, but it's not. It might be Nathan Oakley, but I'm not sure if it's Nathan Oakley. But it's somebody. I'll have to get back on that. But he's got like a website dedicated to just people entering their own experiments and stuff. Like that's why I say there's thousands of people that have done this because he's got literally thousands of entries on his website of every part of the month and every same place is being retested over and over, and there's always colder moonlight than there is moon shade.
As Lord David Bader said,
Yeah, he's right.
Daytime weather would make a huge difference.
Yeah, he's right because there's no moonlight. We're measuring sunlight then.
But I still think that it's important for you to test the mechanics, or not so much test, but try and figure out them if you want to work out what's going on.
Yeah, comparisons.
And on your end, figure out the mechanics, because when we've got a sort of thing which says this is what's probably happening, and then you've got an alternative idea. You have to figure out the mechanics and explain what causes these mechanics. So what causes why is the moon giving off a cooling light when everything else that gives off light gives off heat?
Yeah, I definitely agree, and that's kind of going along the same lines of. I hear this a lot that flat Earth doesn't have a specific model or a model that we supposedly agree on. So therefore, we can't be right until we have a model. But that's not what we're saying at all. We're not saying we have a correct model or even that we have a model. We're just saying that the current model has errors and we're pointing them out. Like we can definitely point out errors in a model without having our own model. And that's one thing that a lot... Huh?
I was actually going to bring this up, and I think this would be a sort of nice sort of point to close off on.
Yeah.
And bring it up. Because the thing is, I haven't really given any reason why I believe the globe over the flat Earth.
Yeah.
And one of the big reasons is because when it comes to just about every flat Earth thing that I've seen, right?
Sorry, I was reading his comment. What'd you say, buddy?
So when it comes to a lot of flat Earth things like the a map that shows the sun going around the North Pole, right? And even D Marble and I'm actually glad that he did this because I'm going to use this because I'm not a big fan of Nathan Oakley, right?
All right.
And
Was I right? Do you know if he's done the cold moonlight thing? Is that who I was talking about? Do you know?
What?
Do you know if Nathan Oakley has tackled the cold moonlight at all?
I don't know. He doesn't seem to tackle much. Like
Okay.
a lot of what he says about the whole thing with R, and I don't. I think he's in a way he's sort of inhibiting good discussion when it comes to this sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's why I'm not a big fan of Nathan Oakley in
Alright.
any way. Even if he was a globe earth, I'd be like, I'd just not.
Yeah, like I'm not even really familiar with many flat earthers, honestly. Like I do my own stuff usually.
But yeah, anyway, so just about every flat Earth, whatever model it is, shows the sun going around the North Pole, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this, and I've seen D Marble. He made a video of it showing it shows that the sun makes a circuit around the North Pole.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is the case, then why does the sun in the southern hemisphere,
Mm-hmm.
and during the summer, I see it rise in
East.
the southeast,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it makes its way north.
Yep.
And then it makes its way back to southwest.
Yep.
And to me, it's almost like it's going around the southern pole. Why is that?
Well, I mean, you can actually see video of the North Pole because there's 3 days and 3 nights that the sun doesn't set. There's just one video that shows that. I know that there's Norway or something that says that they receive 6 months of daylight or something, but I've never actually seen the sun not set for 6 months or not rise for 6 months, so I can't confirm that at all. But I can definitely confirm that I've seen the sun from one standing point. The camera follows it for 3 days and 3 nights, and on time lapse, my phone's about to, or my battery's about to die, but yeah, for 3 days and 3 nights, it shows that the sun does not set. It goes really down and then it comes up, and it follows. It goes down and up and down and up, but it doesn't quite go out of view. But for only 3 days, so. There, and it's in the north. It's near the North Pole. It's not at the North Pole because no one can actually be at the North Pole and videotape that I've seen. But they can go to the 90th parallel supposedly or whatever. But that's a whole different debate on how big the 90th parallel is. But to show that it's actually circling around the North Pole like that. And then when you look at the South Pole, the time lapse footage of that, there's so many different versions of the South Pole. And the sun does not look natural at all, and it, like one of the videos, like it shows that the sun goes almost all the way around, and then it time lapse, and then it's edited. It goes, and then it's edited every time. It never actually does a full circle. You can always see that they've edited it, and it doesn't do a full circle.
But living in the southern hemisphere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't get the whole. I don't get a full day of sun, 24 hours.
Yeah.
I've never had that.
Yeah.
But even so, I can see the sun rise in the southeast,
Mm-hmm.
head north, and rise in the set in the southwest.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that this poses to the flat Earth model is that if the sun is making a circuit around the North Pole, then this completely contradicts it's the opposite of what we should be seeing.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
So what we're seeing in the southern hemisphere is we should be seeing in the summer in the southern hemisphere. If the Earth was flat and was consistent with your model, then we should see the sun rise in the north, stay north, come closer, but not quite reach us, then head back further north. But that's not what we see. We see it rise in this south. We see it rise in the southeast, come up to the north and then rise, then set in the southwest.
I'm gonna have to maybe if you could think a little bit on how to explain that to layman, because I'm not sure I'm understanding it. And my iPad's about to die, buddy, so it's probably gonna cut you off in a second. It's not me cutting you off. It's literally just about to die.
Okay.
But yeah, if we can continue that maybe tomorrow or another day, whenever it's convenient, we can set it up. But yeah, definitely we can talk more about that. And I'm sorry, you guys. I was gonna address some more questions, but I didn't really get any in time. I'd really like to thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for having such a polite conversation with me, bro. I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you didn't have any insults for me whatsoever at all. And I apologize if I did. I know a couple of times like I probably just might have gone off, but I did not mean to insult you in any way, shape, or form. Like I really appreciate how cordial you've been. So
I don't feel insulted at all. You know?
awesome,
So,
awesome, for sure, dude. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, thank you too, MC. Sorry if we didn't get to any of your questions, you guys. There's definitely going to be more of these. So if I think that's it, buddy. I'll definitely talk to you soon.
see ya.
All right, buddy. Thank you.